Uh, Hello everyone. I'm kind of stressed out right now, but that's right. I'll try to talk about it. I feel sort of unprepared, but I know a lot ish about this. I guess I'll start by saying I'm not an expert in this topic. I wasn't really I wasn't even born around this time period, so this would be like 19, like 81 or 82 to like 85. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about some retro computing stuff, but specifically before VGA video cards. So maybe some of you watching this might watch other YouTubers that have talked about some of this stuff. So Apic Guy or Adrian's Digital Basement. There's a ton of people really that kind of talk about this stuff. But I guess specifically what I'm talking about is CGA and EGA, which were retro computer video modes before VGA and sort of like after mono graphics. Hey, level 1 online. All right, so I guess I'll give you some background, right? I think, well, first of all, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I feel like retro computing stuff has sort of popped off. Hey, Bartleby, it's sort of not popular, but I feel like it kind of is getting some. It's 15 minutes of fame, I guess. But it's complicated. Retro computing stuff is not as straightforward as retro video game console stuff is. And if that's sort of my background is retro console modding, upscaling, that sort of thing. And if you're also interested in that stuff, and maybe you have some upscalers or things, I'll begin by saying that you should be pretty thankful that that is the case. That retro console stuff is a lot less complicated. Maybe not for you or I, but for developers making things, right? So basically, they only have there's a somewhat limited amount of variance in the video output, I guess, that they're working with. Although it does give me some respect for like Mike Chi, who is the developer behind the RetroTink products, for the amount of effort that he's put into automating at least some of the settings for at least for console stuff. But for computer stuff, I feel like it's a lot more difficult because, well, I guess more specifically, I guess I'm talking about IBM PC compatibles, because there are a lot of different types of retro computers, right? Macs and why can't I not think of it? Like there were some Atari computers as well, Amiga, right? And some of those are kind of fall into that category of being less complicated, and I put that in air quotes because they were sort of like more commoditized than PC compatibles, right? You could buy a specific model. Here's an Amiga 500. Here's an Amiga 1200, right? And it's sort of like a known what the parts are in it. PCs changed so much from the late 70s to the 90s. Yeah. So with IBM compatibles, there's basically a big explosion. Well, so first of all, it was like a new frontier for a lot of different people. IBM, I guess specifically, but they kicked off this idea of, right, like you can kind of customize it, and maybe not like at the time. An interesting video that I watched. I think it was what was the video? LGR, Lazy Game Reviews. He made a video where he had a boxed IBM 51. Actually, I think he made a couple of videos, but the one I watched particularly was this IBM 5170, because I also have a 5170. I don't have it upstairs with me now. This is a clone 286, but that IBM 5170 is a 286 computer. But the interesting thing is LGR brought up this idea that if you bought a IBM at that time, so that would have been like, I don't know, 80, 83, 84, 85, that sort of time period. If you bought one, you probably didn't set it up yourself, right? An IBM technician would have probably, maybe you picked out some of the parts, or they gave you like a list of options, but a service technician would have built it and customized it for you during that time. Because that was a pretty interesting part of that LGR video, was you can actually look in the manuals and it tells you sort of those things like, okay, you know, if you are a technician, you can kind of figure it out. It gives you all the handbooks, but like as a user of the computer, you probably wouldn't have done that yourself. Somebody would have done it, set it up for you, and connected everything, because that was brand new territory for a lot of people. So I've read. Like I said, I'm coming from the perspective of not being even alive yet, but just from people's secondhand experience of watching all these YouTube videos, I believe that was the expectation, is these IBMs would have been set up. Okay, so why did I even mention that? I think as far as video games are concerned and computers, things change pretty rapidly within years. And on the scale of like different video game console generations worth of upgrades, right? Going from, you would have had just like text graphics, right? So like some word processing, you could do all that stuff with just word processing. But then, you know, you get into like monochrome graphics, and then it also relates to monitor technology also. So like monitor technology might have been just single color, maybe not black and white, but amber or green or something. But then it went to CGA. IBM developed this, and I'm thankful to have one. So like some of this stuff, I know I'm kind of lucky to have had already. I didn't really need to buy it, the whole IBM and things. So this is actually an original, a real CGA card, color graphics adapter. It actually says up here, color graphics. So CGA is really maybe not technology, but like a format that was pioneered by this specific card and IBM. So some interesting things. CGA was only 4 colors. Maybe we'll go to let's go to Wikipedia. Quick. I mean, there's a lot. We're gonna get to the RGB to HDMI, but I think it's important to kind of understand the capabilities of IBM PCs. So I guess we'll call them PCs. That this specific device, the RGB to HDMI, is useful for. But there's a whole bunch of different types of computers, but mainly for CGA and EGA. But let's talk about. So let's go to Wikipedia, and maybe we'll talk about CGA first, just to kind of prepare you for whether or not, I guess, you should care. Not care is the wrong word. I mean, I think it's really interesting. If you're a collector of hardware and if you want to start collecting hardware, it's sort of important to at least understand the different options. So let's look at browser. All right, so hey, that's cool. This is so this would have been 81 where this card would have been released. The most important thing about CGA is at least in the sense of like gaming, right? So like some games that I can think of off the top of my head. Had played Burger Time. I just have another stream where I talked about this. So Burger Time is one of the games that had a CGA mode. The original King's Quest 1 and the original version of King's Quest was a CGA release. They had a few years afterwards, they re-released it with a VGA mode. Actually, it was more like it was like the beginning of the 90s, I believe they remade that. But it would have been like 4 colors at 320 by 200, which would have been the DOS gaming resolution. So I guess what would that look like? I guess these weird pink and magenta, or pink and cyan, like this. This is what well, that's great. Tiny picture. Can I make this bigger? Nope. This is another game I heard about, Alley Cat. I kind of was Googling CGA. That card is cool. I wonder if it still works. Oh yeah, it did. Well, so here's the thing. I'm trying to quickly get to why the RGB to HDMI is necessary. So both CGA and EGA. So there was also a follow-up to CGA. Okay, so just know that the CGA was these 4 colors, and it would have been like this pink and cyan color scheme, and black and white, I guess, on screen at the same time. So you would only had 4 colors at the same time. It's capable of, or some developers made it capable of 16 colors. Actually, this CGA card, you'll notice it has 2 outputs, right? So this is a DB9 connector, so it's not a DB. Yeah, 9. It's not a DB. What is VGA? It's 25. It's not a VGA. It's not a DB25 connector, or D sub. I don't know what's the name of the connector. I'm not really sure, but VGA I think has like 25 pins or something like that. So it has more pins. So this is an incompatible plug, right? So this would not fit in a VGA monitor. So there would have been specifically like RGB monitors were like, I guess, CGA compatible monitors, EGA compatible monitors. Like you would have had to have a monitor that was compatible with that plug for you to use this card. And that would have been just the 4 colors out of that 9-pin connector. But you'll notice that this is a composite video jack. And I tried to get this to work back when I made my other stream about this. I tried connecting it to the RetroTink 4K, and it kind of struggles. But I think it's because the RetroTink struggled on the video. But I think it's because it's not like a good composite video signal. I don't think, without like analyzing it, which some year I'll get around to. I just am curious how it's different from a normal composite video signal. But if you had a composite television and you could connect this composite video to a composite TV, CRT, it would have been able to reproduce 16 colors using composite artifacts. So like the blending of color edges together, you could create the 16 color palette. So it's kind of weird. I didn't, at the time I made that video, I didn't have any way of displaying the 9-pin CGA output, but I connected it to my CRT, and it was really interesting seeing on a CRT, composite CRT, it looked really good. The 16 color, I was playing Burger Time at the time, and it looked like it had the 16 colors, so that's pretty neat. DB15 is it? Yeah, something like that. maybe you're right. Okay, so maybe VGA is 15 pins. Anyway, so that's CGA. And you don't have to be super knowledgeable about it. Just kind of know, okay, CGA, it has this 9-pin connector that is not compatible with VGA, and we'll get into what it actually outputs in a second, because that's sort of relevant to understand what the purpose of the RGB to HDMI is. but it's also this like 4-color palette. Actually, let's Google like King's Quest 1 CGA. Maybe we'll just have a yeah, so sort of like this. Oops, this is a whole YouTube video. So this is somebody playing it. Let me do this. So this is what it would have looked like: pink, cyan, white, and black. And then I guess like dithering, it's like a weird vertical scan line. So maybe this is like a, I don't know, maybe it would have looked better on an actual monitor that was capable of taking this in. But it kind of looks weird if you just look at the, it kind of looks kind of like dithering, but like vertical bars, I guess. I don't know, weird. So this is CGA. Then quickly, maybe, well, actually, yeah, it actually was pretty quick. Let's see, did they mention it here in this article? I guess it talks about successors. EGA. I kind of really want an authentic EGA card, which is the enhanced graphics adapter. It looks like this. So it's an actual, well, this might be a, that might be from like a clone card. I'm not super sure. I know that IBM, like part of IBM's downfall was they used sort of off-the-shelf parts, and they published schematics and things, and so people were able to kind of make their own. Like companies were able to kind of clone them. But it had the same connector. So this is EGA, or enhanced graphics, and it had the same connector, that DB9 connector, but it was capable of 16 colors on screen at the same time. So it was kind of like that composite artifacting CGA mode, but like all the time. And actually, I think there was a composite artifact mode for King's Quest. I think that's what I played. I played some of that. So it did have the 16 colors. So there. And I also think that it was capable of 640 by 350. It was like a higher, more lines. So like, I guess higher definition, which is kind of weird to think about. So, but it had the same pinout. So one more thing before we talk about the RGB to HDMI, I actually have to take this graphics card out anyways, because I have to, I do have to look at something on it. After EGA, kind of shortly after, so let's see, when was EGA? EGA would have been, and I hope you guys aren't bothered by me like stumbling over what I'm going to talk about, because I find some of this stuff, fascinating. Oh, EGA Wonder 800 is a HDMI model. Anyway, so I kind of like exploring things, and sometimes it's like it seems scatterbrained, but I'm getting somewhere. So EGA would have been 84. So CGA, an authentic CGA card would have been 81. EGA, an authentic EGA card would have been like 84. Wow, I can't believe that's almost 40 years ago. Crazy. Then afterwards, a monochrome display adapter. Oh, that was the predecessor. Okay. Afterwards would have been VGA, which is, this is crazy. Is this look how that's the other thing that's kind of interesting too, is like real IBM cards, like expansion cards, where this is like a full size card. This is kind of like a, I don't know, half size card. We'll talk about what this is in a second. But this would have actually been like front to back inside of the IBM 5170. Like this would have taken up the whole length of the case. And there's actually brackets inside the case that hold the opposite ends. So like this end is sort of familiar, right? If you've ever built a computer, you know that this type of end would go into the case and stick out the back, right? But then the other end, the cards were so long that they were braced by like a slot in the case. So you would have like put your whole card in like this, and it was kind of interesting. So that's just a side note. That's one of the reasons why this card is so long. This one on the screen here. Is this a real? Did IBM make So I guess they did. So I guess IBM introduced VGA itself for the IBM PS2, which is a line of computers, in '87. So what? EGA would have been '85, and then VGA would have been '87. And VGA is kind of like a little bit more of a wider sort of range of resolutions and things. And features, right? More colors. Could be more colors, right? Let's see. Is there like a standard mode? So standard graphics mode, so 640 by 480, so it would have had more. Yeah, you're right, Bartleby. If they made them just longer, and made a standard length, actually that'd be funny if it was IBM graphics card length, and then cases had like a slot. That's actually, hey. We already saw GPU sag 40 years ago. That's funny. I guess a standard graphics mode would have been 640 by 480, 16 colors, or the more traditional DOS resolution of 320 by 200 by 256 colors. So you would have had a lot more colors with VGA even over EGA. So that's kind of like the three things, the three different graphics types that I'm going to talk about. But the thing with VGA is it introduced this, well, I guess is a D-sub, but like the 15-pin connector, right? So that was it was physically different than the 9-pin connector from CGA and EGA. And not only was it physically different, I believe, let me just see. Is VGA technically analog? I guess it is, huh? So the interesting thing is VGA, and I guess subsequently like RGB, if you think about it that way. If you think about VGA being RGB and then horizontal and vertical sync, because that's how, if I connect a VGA card to the RetroTink 4K, I've got to select RGBHV in the input option. So I guess it's sort of similar to like the difference between that and like RGB from a console. RGB from a console would be like composite sync, which would be horizontal and vertical sync together on one line, versus RGBHV, which would have been horizontal and vertical sync broken out. So that's kind of a little bit different. But it's analog. VGA would have been analog. What's really interesting is CGA and I believe EGA, I suppose, because they shared the same physical sort of interface. It's let's see, does it mention what it considers it? It's basically a digital signal. And what do I mean by that? It's TTL level logic, right? So it's not necessarily analog video. And TTL logic, I'm not an electrical engineer, but anytime I hear someone talk about TTL, which stands for transistor to transistor logic, but anytime I hear someone talk about TTL, I just think 5 volts, right? Because that's sort of the digital signal voltage of that era, that time. So the signal type that comes through, let's go to the CGA. The signal that comes through here, sorry if you guys can't really see this because I swapped to I have a 1440p monitor here now and it's not 1080p. It's like this, it's called RGBI, right? It's like a 4-bit color space, I guess, but a color is represented by either a 0 or a 1, or like the mixture of those 4 lines together, well, RGB and then intensity, which is the I, which is basically light or dark of another color. So like, I guess you could see here, this is the whole palette, right? So like, got light magenta and dark magenta. It's the same, it would be the same, whatever like red values, but it would have an additional I bit. This, oh here you can see 1 for R, 1 for B or blue, and then 1 for intensity, and then the dark magenta would have been 0 for intensity. So it's literally like a digital signal. It was not, or I'm going to call it digital. I don't know, like I'm not 100% sure if you could argue. Let's actually see, is there an RGBI article here in Wikipedia? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to claim that it's digital, but it's not an analog level, like voltage level. So it's not like you could, I guess if you wanted to, and it will not work because it's not compatible and it's probably going to fry something. You can't just you can't just make your own adapter, hook the 9-pin connector up to your CGA card, and then like wire it up to a VGA connector and like hook it up to a VGA display or like the RetroTink or something. You cannot do that. There are actually a couple of, let me see, I think Necroware, is it Necroware? I watched a video actually recently where he has an update to this project. You can kind of get away with a lot less than the project that we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. This project is called MCE adapter, I guess, which it stands for monochrome CGA EGA adapter. Let's see, are there any better photos? No, not really. This is an open source project, but it's literally on one side you'd have a CGA connector, right, so the 9-pin connector. Then there's like a microcontroller that is responsible for kind of converting the digital RGBI interface from the CGA or EGA card to a VGA analog video signal voltage level, and somehow it generates sync. I don't know if RGBI also has an additional sync line. I'm not 100% sure, but it probably does. Anyway, so this adapter would be a more sort of rudimentary thing. It does have a microcontroller because, interestingly, in the CGA color palette, there is, or at least the IBM CGA color palette, there is a brown color. So instead of dark yellow, it is brown. It renders as brown, which is sort of interesting in a way. So you have to do more than just like, okay, hey, this is R, so spit out an analog R, like R value, right? A red value, whatever. You have to take into account some edge case things, and it's sort of difficult when you mix together both CGA and EGA because there's some more rules. So actually, I highly recommend watching this Necroware video. Let me just find it. And you can watch it. It kind of gives you a little bit of info about what I'm talking about, the edge case scenarios. Actually, it was just 5 days ago. So I'm going to put this in the, let's see, how am I going to do this? Well, I'll put it in the description of this video. But this is an interesting video that kind of talks about, oh, here's what that thing looks like. So on one end, you'd have the, VGA would go out to your VGA monitor, and the other end would be that 9-pin connector. And you have like this microcontroller and some resistors. It's more rudimentary than the project that we're going to talk about now. So I guess keep that in mind. So CGA and EGA are digital, I suppose. The auto switching, that was, the stupid heart in that was added. Oh, so you saw that video too? Oh, okay. Yeah. So actually, it's funny that you bring that up because I've been using the RGBtoHDMI kind of today. I got it today. I've been waiting for it because I've been wanting to mess around with the IBM, the 5170 CGA card eventually, but I just wanted to start using it and figure it out. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about this project. So it was originally started by this person Hoglet. It's known as RGB to HDMI, and I originally wrote it wrong. I originally thought it was RGB and then the number 2 HDMI, but it's 2 HDMI. But if you go to like the main page, this is the wiki. If you go to the main GitHub repository, this project was not originally. I don't think it wasn't originally designed for IBM PCs. Although I suppose it eventually got utilized for that. But different types of computers, so like in this case, the BBC Micro and the Electron this project was developed for those computers originally. But now there's a whole wide range of computers that it supports. So we'll get back to the wiki in a second because we're going to need it, and that's where I might rage quit. I was hoping to build one of these myself, but I kind of got impatient, and they kind of go in and out of stock a lot. So I put in a back order, and the back order just happened to come up, so I got it pretty quick from when I placed this order. So this is on Retro Hack Shack, which is like just a store that sells this. I'm not affiliated with them or anything. I don't want to take mine apart because it's so. This RGB to HDMI project, it's based on a Raspberry Pi Zero. So it is a Raspberry Pi, not a Raspberry Pi Pico or anything, which is kind of a shame because I think the Pico is probably capable of doing this type of work, right? Just converting the digital signal to analog. However, this project doesn't do that. This project doesn't convert the digital to analog at all. It keeps it digital, and it just converts it from the RGB, the digital RGB or RGBI, to an HDMI signal. So technically, this project would stand out by itself if you wanted to connect it to a monitor, right? You don't need the RetroTink 4K, and actually, I don't even think you need the RetroTink 4K either. I think I found out later on there was a mode if you use the Raspberry Pi 4 or higher, it can actually upscale to 4K 60, I think. And that might be an experimental mode or whatever, but at least with the model that I have, it can do, with the Raspberry Pi Zero, it can do up to 1440p output. So it does also, so not only does it do that conversion of the RGBI to HDMI, it can also upscale it, this project. And it's sort of two parts, right? So it's the RGB, or it's the Raspberry Pi Zero, right? So you need one of those, but then you need this hat, this I don't know, Raspberry Pi Zero hat. Let me see if I can find a good good visual. So this is a YouTube video that Retro Hack Shack uploaded. So this is from a video. So yeah, this is the same person that owns that store, and they're just building it in this one, I believe. So maybe we'll go to the second one. Is it this one? Did they put it together? Oh, they're building a cable. I didn't need to do that. I guess I don't need. I wanted. Maybe it's the last one, where they're actually assembling the whole thing. Maybe not. So, anyways, let me try to wrap up this part. Right? What do you need to actually build one of these things? So on Retro Hack Shack, you've got to order this hat. Right? So this is the main RGB to HDMI hat thing, and that goes on top of the Raspberry Pi Zero. Then you need to figure out how to connect the computer that you want to connect to this thing, right? So for IBM PCs and PC compatibles, as far as like CGA and EGA are concerned, I don't necessarily think you need this TTL buffer board, but it says here that it protects the CPLD. So the hat thing, the main RGB to HDMI board, uses a CPLD. Is a CPLD a microcontroller? Not really, right? I don't know. Uses a CPLD. for its logic, and I guess to protect it from the TTL voltage, there's this buffer board. So I bought this also, and this just connects to that hat. So like the hat goes on top of the Raspberry Pi Zero, but before you do that, you connect this buffer thing underneath it, and then it just has a part that sticks out that is what you connect your CGA or EGA graphics card to. And then I bought a CGA cable from them also. But I found this project, a case, basically a 3D printed case that fits it pretty well. So it's just a shell, basically. So you stick the Raspberry Pi Zero in it. You have to get some standoffs, which are in the bill of materials to build an RGB to HDMI itself. So you need these standoffs to kind of secure it into this case, and kind of it protects it because you're supposed to be able to press the buttons on the top here. And normally, if you don't have any other hardware, like screw hardware, I guess, to separate the hat from the Raspberry Pi Zero, it will bend, you know, because you're just on the GPIO pin. So it has some standoffs to keep it, but it's really simple. It's really just standoffs and some screws to connect it all together. And then it just exposes the Raspberry Pi Zero has a mini HDMI port, so that's kind of similar to some of the HDMI modded console HDMI port type is similar to that. And then it has the micro USB port, so it's Raspberry Pi Zero is older at this point for power, so you do need to power it, I believe, through the thing, and then you just need to plug in your cable here. So that's what I have over there. I don't want to unplug it because I don't know if my settings are going to reset or anything. So it's a pretty simple thing. I didn't have to solder anything. It came from Retro Hack Shack in a couple of parts, but it's really simple to sort of figure out how it goes together, and I don't need to solder anything else. To remove the heart icon when you schedule the stream under reactions, uncheck live reactions. Oh, got it. To remove it live, you have to edit customizations, reactions, uncheck live reaction. Okay, let me do that. Edit. Oh, actually, at the top here. Edit. Maybe that's in the YouTube control panel thing. I don't know if you could do that in OBS while it's going. But that's good info. I'll have to look into how I can just. I mean, I hope that doesn't negatively affect people that on the other end. Like, I don't want to do it, but I don't know if chatters want to do it or not. But all right. So anyway, so that's this project is a kind of an adapter that converts the RGBI or the digital RGB from either CGA or EGA or a bunch of different other types of computers to HDMI. Yeah, it's in the YouTube dashboard. Okay. Yeah, I'll figure it out for next time because that is annoying. I'm trying to like read somebody's comment here in OBS, and it's like right in the way of the end of the sentence. I guess I can always move the thing. So what do I have? What are we connecting it to? So I have a clone 286 computer over here. I ended up finding, I have a stream titled, I can't get this 286 computer to work. I figured out it's not a great answer to why it wasn't working. I have to, well, the problem is the CGA, the authentic CGA card actually is too low. It hits a bunch of stuff on the motherboard on this computer. It wouldn't do that on an IBM because the IBM motherboard has a lot less stuff on it, and it's sort of out of the way where this card would go in the case. But with the case of the clone 286, there's just like a lot more like memory on the thing. Hey Belmont, it's not in. I physically cannot put this in that computer. Yeah. Still haven't removed this damn heart from the stream yet? No. I complained about it a lot too. But Bartleby told me about it. How to fix it. How to disable it, I guess. So this is I have The graphics card, so I got this computer from my my partner's dad had this computer, and well, so the really short story about that is it had a Varda battery, and it leaked the acid from the battery leaked all over the board, and it destroyed the board. But I was able to find another one of those boards that did not yet have a leaky Varda. And so I bought the same, so it's like pretty much the same exact motherboard. I just swapped it out, and now it's working. It came with a Sang Labs, I can't remember what those are called, ES 1000 or something. Sang is TSENG, oh, ET 1000, I think something like that. And I think there's something physically wrong with that card. Actually, I have it over here. Like it doesn't, it has garbled text on the screen. So I think it's pretty clear that, I don't know, Leon at one point was kind of, oh, hey, Ian, I don't know, have you ever used this RGB to HDMI adapter, Ian? Because I'm kind of coming, I'll get into it, but coming from retro video game stuff and upscalers in that space, like, we're super spoiled when it comes to that, because there's a lot, like, you don't have to really do any messing with settings, and you have to mess with a lot of settings with this RGB to HDMI thing, but we'll get there. So yeah, the Sang Labs card, I don't know if there's, like, maybe there's something with like a character ROM or something that's busted, like, because it's not working right away when you boot the system, and like the characters are garbled and things. It could be the video memory maybe is bad over here. It needs some diagnostics that's outside my skill range, so I kind of put the Sang Labs card down. But I had also ordered, this card is from 1989, so it's really not, it's about 4 years newer than the computer itself. So this probably would have been more for like a 386 computer than a 286. Yeah, I built a RGB to HDMI, use it with my CGA and EGA cards. Oh, maybe if yeah, the Vardas are evil. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, Ian. Maybe if you're still around while I'm talking about it. I'm trying to get there soon-ish, but there's a lot of things to talk about, going from no knowledge to understanding what the RGB to HDMI actually is good for. So this is an ATI. I just kind of like how it's an ATI card, because it's like, if you're into computers, like ATI is kind of a big deal, or was a big deal when they were still around before AMD bought them. This is an ATI VGA Wonder 16. So it is a VGA card. It's a 16-bit card also. This was the card that I couldn't get working. It would constantly reset the computer. So it didn't have the same issue as the Sang Labs card. The Sang Labs card, I don't know, there's garbled graphics, whatever. I think it's an actual issue with the card itself. But this, I was not sure. I ended up finding there's a not like a driver, but like a utility that lets you program. There's like a onboard BIOS on this. Lets you configure some settings on board, and it's kind of neat. It's not like a driver that you install. It's like you configure the card, and then like whatever computer you put this in, the configuration, it stays the same. I changed the configuration from 16-bit mode to this 8-bit mode, which is supposed to be slower, so it's backwards compatible with slower computers, but that fixed the booting issue in this computer for whatever reason, going into this slower mode. It's possible because it's a 286 and it's a 12 megahertz CPU, but it's not like a 40 megahertz computer. Like I have a 386 40 megahertz CPU motherboard that is from, actually it's about the same era, same time period, like 86 or 87. So there was a lot faster CPUs out when this card was out. So it's possible that it's not compatible with slower CPUs, maybe. But I just put it into 8-bit mode, and actually the lazy hack is to like physically put the card into an 8-bit slot. So if you don't know, with ISA graphics cards, or ISA cards in general, if it has 2 prongs in the bottom here, that means it's 16-bit. If it has 1, like the CGA card, that means it's 8-bit. Yeah, so something like that, like matches up like that. So I just put this in 8-bit mode, or actually you can just put it in an 8-bit slot, and the card auto detects that it's in an 8-bit slot, and it, you know, puts it in an 8-bit mode, and it just worked. It worked fine. Yeah. The future of the RGB to HDMI will be interesting. The CPLD chip that's on it will be end of life. Yeah. It will go out of production later this year. Yeah. That's kind of why I bought one. I probably should have. I wanted to build one, but I just got impatient and I didn't. I don't know. Anyway, so, however, the interesting thing about this ATI card, this VGA era, you know, it does support VGA graphics output. It has on it both a VGA port, right? So this is a VGA, the 15-pin, the what did I say? The D sub or the DB15 connector. It also has a CGA/EGA port, and it supports CGA and EGA mode, right? So if you connected a CGA or EGA monitor, if you had an EGA monitor, you could connect it. Or I'm going to use the RGB to HDMI in this port in a little bit. So, and then from there on, it kind of limits the capability of the card to EGA only. So I'm kind of using this as a hack to kind of, I don't have an actual EGA card, I just have the CGA card, but I'm kind of using it to limit, I suppose, what graphics modes the graphics card can output. However, you can actually just do that in software, I believe. So I think even if you connected the VGA to a VGA monitor, I think you can still say, hey, don't be VGA, just be EGA, and don't output 256 colors, just stay with whatever 16 colors, which kind of further, at least for IBM PCs, it kind of further makes the RGB to HDMI not super useful. So while I have this card out, I need to look up, in order to configure, so we'll talk about the gripes that I've got with the RGB to HDMI. I've got to look at, I got to find the clock of this card. I'm just going to take a photo of all this. This card has 4, oops, I'm sorry, I don't have great lighting over here. This card has 4 clock crystals on it. I don't necessarily know, I know one of them is NTSC, like the NTSC video frequency is always the same. I think that's what the 56.644 is. And I think I need to keep that in mind. Where's my phone? Oh, I was charging it. Oh, it's over here. I need to take a photo of these because that's why I took it out in the first place. And then I'll fire it up and I'll show you why I'm annoyed. And not annoyed, like I have no like ill will to the project runners, but if you're gonna watch this, if you're somebody watching this and you're already familiar with console upscaling and things, you're gonna be like, wow, that's all that stuff is handled for you with like a RetroTink or whatever. Like does it all that stuff for you kind of automatically. So there's a wiki page for. So I need to bust this out because I have to, before I actually even like use it to do any gaming, I have to set it up for this card. So that's why I was talking about in the beginning. So this is a super ranty section, but that's why I talked about in the beginning. There's so much variability in computers for at least this time period because essentially for almost any different graphics card, you probably have to configure the RGB to HDMI for that graphics card. So if you swapped out to another, and not just the graphics card, but also each individual graphics mode. So because this graphics card supports both EGA and CGA, that's considered 2 different modes, right? And even then, there's different resolutions for those different modes too. You'd have to basically set up a profile for each unique combination. And there's no real easy way to switch between them. It doesn't automate, there's no switching between profiles automatically. So I'm going to put this back in the computer, and then I'm going to show you why I was in, like if you watch the beginning of the stream, you're probably like, well, he seems not in a good mood. I was not in a good mood. I'm okay now because I'm talking to people and just kind of ranting, but yeah, it is not at all, I guess, what I expected it was going to be, which is unfortunate, but it's sort of the price I pay for not doing enough research, I guess. But I even having what research I have, it's like I don't know what other I don't know what other conclusion you would have. Like, you'll see what I'm talking about in a second, but yeah. Okay, so the graphics card is in there. I'm just gonna plug in that 9-pin the cable, and it goes into this. You guys can't really see it, but it's black, and my TV's black. But I got the RGB to HDMI there. It was already powered on. I've been messing with it a little bit, and it's if you don't know about Raspberry Pis, like they're just always on when they're plugged in. So it's kind of always running whatever the software. And I know you can like run like full like Linux distributions. Like you can run Raspbian, I think is like a Linux distro. I don't know enough about Raspberry Pi, like not Raspberry Pi Pico, but Raspberry Pi itself programming to know if you can like disable that. So like it's not going to run Linux, it's just going to run some code. So maybe that's what this is doing. But I can see how people would be kind of like, you know, you're using a Raspberry Pi Zero, which probably has more compute power than the computer itself, right? It probably can emulate it. So why you're not just emulating it? And that's fair, right? Like, I understand, I get it. But in this case, a whole Raspberry Pi, well, in this case it's a Zero, but a whole Raspberry Pi is just doing this digital to digital kind of upscaling conversion. I suppose that's a pretty big deal, right? Because it does could output 1440p. So let's turn the computer on, and I want to warn you, anybody going forward from this point on, I'm going to show the screen. Well, actually, the computer's on, but I'm going to show a capture of the screen. If you have any photosensitivity, or if you really don't like flashing, like I want to like put a big, like, I don't, what's the proper way to say this, like seizure warning, I guess. So there's gonna be stuff flashing on the screen, and even for people that aren't, it might be annoying for you too. So I apologize for that in advance, but there's really nothing that you can do, because this is the process that you would have to do if you bought this RGB to HDMI and you wanted to use it on your retro computer. You would have to be subjected to this process. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about in a second. All right, so I'm going to turn my TV on so I can see what I'm doing. But then I got to switch to the capture, which will be here. Okay, so that's the warning. Hopefully that's enough warning. If you, don't watch this if you're photosensitive or you're sensitive to flashing screen. Oops, not that. Game capture. Okay, so I was successful in, I don't know a ton about like the video modes of DOS, right? So I think that this screen, like a DOS prompt, is like a 320 by 200 resolution, I guess. And I think that it kind of depends on the adapter. But I'm gonna go into something. So I have this utility for the ATI card, right? So the VGA Wonder. If I go into, actually it's just on a floppy, well, on my GoTech, but yeah. So if I do vinstall, there's this utility. And this vinstall utility actually still uses that text mode, I believe. So it's gonna work. It's gonna not be flashy, but you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So this is the output. I think technically this is like an EGA type output, just based on the number of colors that are being rendered. So like I said, this ATI card can output, I guess it would just output out of that that 9-pin port. It would probably output EGA, or it would try to output EGA. So it's kind of like I have an EGA card in here. But there's this test graphics adapter, and this is kind of where our flashing is probably going to start. I guess we'll test these color modes. Okay, so this gives us the ability to choose one of these modes. I don't know enough about this to be like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I think let's do E. So this is how I set this up in the beginning. So it's going to show a bunch of text, right? And I've already done this, I guess. I shouldn't have done that, but I'm going to kind of stumble through doing it. Maybe I'll stumble through a different one. So let's see if we can find a different mode that it hates. Screen paging, no. I wonder what's going to happen if I go into H. 320 by 204 colors. Is that considered? Yep. Here we go. All right. So this I think is technically CGA, right? So it's a completely different mode, and maybe actually let me get out of here. Let's talk about the menu first, the RGB to HDMI menu. So there's 3 buttons. Actually, there's 4 buttons. There's 4 buttons on top of the RGB to HDMI, the hat, right? That stick out of the case. And this is kind of where my gripes sort of start. There's a menu button. So the first button is the menu. So like this is from left to right on the RGB to HDMI, at least from the perspective of the case. Like the writing on the case, the 3D printed case is RGB, is menu first, then down on the menu, then up on the menu. And so like if you hit the menu again here, you would select the option. Then there's a 4th button that is literally reset. So you can accidentally, if you're like looking at the screen trying to navigate the menu, about a dozen times already in the couple of hours that I've had this, the RGB to HDMI, it's literally a reset button for the Raspberry Pi Zero. So it will reset the entire Raspberry Pi Zero, and I think it would probably erase your settings. So like, not erase, but like if you're in the middle of creating a profile for a graphics mode and you press the reset button, it would just get out. So like if you were halfway through done and you were almost finished, it would reset it. So I don't love the fact that there's a reset button so close to the other buttons. I guess that's my first gripe. The second gripe is, in order to choose a different mode, you have to sort of choose what mode you want the RGB to HDMI adapter to be in, right? So right now you'll notice I'm in a custom profile one. Actually, this would be a good demonstration of what I was talking about before with what I had to configure in this custom profile. So at the very bottom here is select profile, and actually if you look at some people's videos of the RGB to HDMI, this must be a newer feature than those people had, because I didn't see this select profile button on the older videos. So when I first booted this up, it was in this what was it? Is there a... No, it wasn't one of these. I don't know. I don't know what that would be under. No, nothing, I guess. It was in this like weird mode, and it was like, I thought it was not working because it would just be scrolling. So let me just select one of them. And again, this is like a flicker warning thing. So let's just go to like the first one, Acorn. If I select this Acorn profile, and if you select the wrong profile for the type of graphics adapter, oh, ironically, it kind of worked. Oh, never mind. I pressed the wrong button. I pressed the reset button instead of the enter button in the menu. See what I'm talking about? I shouldn't really be able to. I know this sounds like I'm like destroying this project, but I'm just, this is just raw emotions that I'm feeling today when I'm trying to check this out. So I didn't, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, Electron was the first profile that was automatically loaded. That's what it was. So this Electron profile. So if I press the right button, so this is what I saw when I first booted it up. Right, I'm like, is this something wrong? I don't understand, right? Like, I don't understand, I don't know how to use this thing really. So I figured out pretty quickly that it was under this Electron profile, and that's probably a computer, like a profile for a specific type of computer, and it didn't have anything to do with IBM PC, and I knew that much. So I was like, okay, well, let me find an IBM PC profile. So there's this IBM PC compatible options, and then there's a big list of different types of profiles that other people have made for different types of IBM things. So you'll notice there's a few for CGA. I don't know what the difference between them is. IBM new, IBM old, Samsung, I'm not sure. And that's not like a negative thing. I wasn't sure which one to select. So then I saw EGA, and I'm like, okay, I'll just select EGA. Oh God, I pressed reset again. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm really trying not to do that. I just subconsciously clicked the button and it was the reset. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm going back, and also I think the up and down arrows should be reversed, but that's just me. So let's go to EGA. That's what I wanted. Okay, so this was the second thing that I experienced after I enabled the EGA profile. I've only ever used the out-of-the-box CGA and EGA profiles and haven't really explored. So what graphics card did you use it with? What graphics card did you use that it just worked? Because from my understanding now, for every different make and model of graphics card, you'd have to go through the setup that I'm going to go through in a second. Yeah, or I'll talk about the wiki, whatever. So I'm like, okay, is there some other setting that I need to set now? Now that we're in EGA mode, because clearly I think it's this mode is correct, right? The colors look okay, but there's these terrible vertical bars that are wiggling, right? This is what I was thinking. So if you go back to the menu, and then at this point I hadn't gone back to the wiki to find out if there was other stuff I needed to do. So I guess this is just, if somebody finds this live stream in the future, and they have questions about this, like why is it not working, whatever, it's more involved than just taking it out of the box and setting up. I used it on a real IBM CGA card like the one you have, and a random EGA clone card. Okay, so that's interesting. I do want to. I don't have a hard drive or a GoTech in my IBM 5170, but I do want to set it up and use the real CGA card, because I feel like maybe that's part of the issue, is these profiles are specifically for a literal CGA card and not like a clone or this ATI card. So I pretty quickly came to the realization that I have to create a custom profile for this card. However, before I figured that out, I thought it might have something to do with sample rate. So if you go to this sample menu, actually before you do that, so there's a sample menu where you can kind of change stuff like you can with the RetroTink, at least the sample. Like you could see kind of like ghosting with the RetroTink 5X, and then if you select auto sample, it would kind of like get rid of that stuff. So I thought it might have something to do with auto sampling. And there's this auto calibrate video sampling button. So I press this auto calibrate mode, and you notice at the very bottom there's this menu here. There's this errors. So this errors 32,000 blah blah blah. And I'm like, and then it didn't fix it. I'm like, okay, so I guess that didn't work. And I tried manually messing with the sample phase and all this other stuff, and it did nothing. It didn't appear to fix the vertical issue. So I'm not going to save anything to that. Okay. So I sort of know what settings I already changed, but I'll tell you what I did already. But I don't think this is the appropriate way to do it. But I went to create a custom profile, Actually, at this point, I have a profile loaded, so it's kind of like I'm creating a new custom profile based off of the currently loaded profile is how I think it is. So if you hit create custom profile, we have some options, right? So the pixel width and pixel height is the resolution of the video output. So I'll go back to the I have the manual. This is not the exact one. This is just for an ATI Wonder card, not the ATI VGA Wonder 16 specifically. This manual might cover a bunch of different ATI cards, but I was not, I couldn't find the specific one. So I think we are in, I think we're in this mode, 640 by 350. I think that's the resolution that I was in. And I think that's like that's like the default. Actually, if we go back to the Wikipedia article, the Wikipedia article will tell us that too. If I go to EGA, because right now we're not in CGA mode, we're in EGA land, right? And one of the standard modes is 640 by 350. So I, at the very least, knew that that was the resolution that I think is outputting on this screen here. Oops, I keep hitting the wrong button. So, okay, at least the first two settings were correct, just because I was already in the EGA profile. Then there's this clock frequency option. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something, maybe I do need to mess with this setting. And I'm just going to do some arbitrary adjustments because I really didn't know. At the time when I made my custom profile, I didn't know what this was going to do. But I'll show you what I did. I just went up. So I just made the clock higher, this clock frequency option higher. And you'll notice that the vertical lines are getting farther apart. So I know about where I need to be. I need to be about 16,666 was the number of the beast. No, the number that I want to get back to, because I think that was the appropriate clock frequency for this card in this mode also. So I just basically just started going up in the clock frequency until I got to a spot that I didn't notice the lines anymore. So I was, you can, if you go up, it kind of, eventually it got to one vertical line, and then eventually it went away. I was at that 666. So I'm like, okay, interesting. And so I saved this custom profile. I didn't change anything else. Well, I went to auto calibrate video sampling now. And if I press that again, look at the errors, right? Error 0. Oh, wait, that's weird. Oh, I see. So it changes the sampling phase, and it can detect errors in the sampling, and that's how it determines which phase to choose, I think. So you have to be close enough already with the clock, that clock number, before you do any auto calibration in order to create a good profile for that specific video mode. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining that. I don't even understand that 100% myself, although I guess obviously each graphics card, or each video card, whatever, can support, in the case of this ATI card, it can support both 4 colors, which is CGA mode, and 16 colors, which is EGA mode, and different resolutions. So those are there's basically 4 modes that it supports. So that would mean I would need to make 4 profiles, I guess. So I started with making this, and I just kind of randomly chose the right clock. Then I was not getting mad, but I was frustrated because the stream was coming up, and I wanted to be able to talk to you guys about using this thing. I wanted to be able to use it and just play games. I have a couple of games ready, but yeah. So now we're just gonna talk about profiles instead. But the wiki the RGB to HDMI project wiki does have a quick start guide. Well, actually, no. It's, where is it? Creating custom profile. Tutorial on adding a new profile. So this is what I should have read in the first place before I did anything. Well, other than, obviously, I knew I needed an EGA profile, and so I kind of tweaked one based on the EGA profile that was already loaded, preloaded, I suppose. So let's read this, I guess, because if you're gonna use one of these things, you have to be very intimate with this page, or else you're gonna have a bad time. Okay. So, unlike many general purpose converters, RGB to HDMI needs to know some details about the video source in order to produce the very high quality results with integer scaling. So you first need to do some research about the computer you intend to use it with. And computer, in this case, is sort of nebulous because we're on an IBM, and you can really have any number of, or an IBM compatible, a PC, and you can have any number of graphics cards in here. Especially in this time period, CGA and EGA, there's a ton of clones of those two different things. You will need to know at least some of the following. The pixel resolution of the computer video outputs. That's why I was kind of talking about, what is it trying to output? In the case of this mode, this graphics mode that's displaying now, I think is like the, what did I say, 640 by 350. So that was the first number, and I'm thankful that those were correct in there already for the EGA profile, because otherwise I probably never would have figured this out. Okay, so we're gonna what I would like to do in a couple of minutes is try a different graphics mode and try to see if I can make a profile, because it wasn't working right when I selected a CGA profile. So basically, I'm going to try to create a profile for CGA because, like Oregon Trail, I have Oregon Trail in there, and that automatically boots into a CGA mode. So basically, I want to create a profile so that I can play Oregon Trail. So the second thing you need to know is the pixel clock frequency, which is kind of a nebulous thing, right? Like, and it's not, I don't think it's necessarily like freely given out, right? I'll have to remember what page is this. This is 61. Okay, so 61, I have to keep that in mind. Like I was looking at this thing, this manual, trying to find anything that's like any reference to clock. Like, can I search this clock? No, I can't search this page. That's great. Maybe we're just gonna scroll. Okay, so it talks a lot about the VGA modes, which is not what we want. We want CGA, a CGA mode. Okay, great. Features, yep. This might be, I'm sorry this is painful to watch, but like this is what you have to do if you're gonna use this with any graphics card. Contents of the package. Okay, let's get to system requirements. Setting up the computer. See, all of this is not any, it's not super helpful. Monitor selection. TTL monochrome. So does this 18.43 kilohertz? This might be for this monochrome mode. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Maybe this is right. So 15.75 kilohertz is the RGB. So let's get into an explodey mode. And what do I mean by explodey mode? I mean, let's get into a mode in this ATI utility that is in that 320 by 200. Oh wait, so I want H. So that's 320 by 200. Okay, so this is kind of cool. It tells you the resolution that it's in. Right now, the current profile, if I hit L, it's that 640 by 350 at 16 colors. This is fine. but you'll notice that there's some, it's called geometry in here. Let me just load my, I'll load my custom profile. I think it's already adjusted. Yeah, because I was messing with this already. So that has the crop correct, I think. So this is fine. This is that EGA mode. But if I bounce out of here and I go back to 320 by 200 at 4 colors, so I've hit H, it hates this. So from here I went into a CGA mode, right? So I hit the menu. Thankfully it pauses it so it's not flickering for infinitely. But then I went to what, custom profile 1. No. I gotta go down to here, down to IBM PC compatible, and then CGA IBM. Okay, so it's stable at the very least. It's stable. Let me see what happens if I go to a different IBM. See, then I have to navigate through the entire menu again to get to this screen again. I wish it would kind of bring up the previous menu. Let's try Samsung. What does that do? Does that do it? Oh my God, nope. Wait, what does it say? Auto switch, sub profile only? What does this do? Oh. So it's possible. Huh. It's possible that there's a way to semi-automate switching between profiles, but not right now. So this is IBM old, but you'll notice that there's flickering still. What IBM new? That's even worse actually. So let's go to IBM new. So, you know, at the very least the colors look correct, but there's still the wavy lines. I just hit the reset button again. Okay, breathe. Okay, so I think we need to adjust the clock on this and that menu. When you saw this, that 640. What does this do? Does this tell me anything? No, this really tells me about the CPLD. Oh, the pixel clock. So I think I need to adjust that 14. I guess that would be 14 kilohertz, wouldn't it? I think I need to adjust that. So if I return out of here, and if I go to, is it settings? No, it's geometry, I think. No, it's not. It's sampling. Oh, where is the menu for? Oh, you know what? It's in create. Excuse me. It's in create custom profile, where you can adjust the clock. So I need to change this. So 640 is not. This is not correct. So what did I say I needed? I need. So keep in mind, I think the clock I'm looking for is 15.75 kilohertz. Sorry, I'm looking at my browser. But because of the utility that we're in, the mode in this utility, I suppose, that we're in, what did I say we were in? 320 by 200? I think we're in 4H, or is it? Yeah, we might be here. Let's see, is there any way to know from this screen? No, it just says color 0. 320 by 200 color 0. Oh. Does that have anything to do with this number over here? No, not really. Color alpha. I think we're in this mode. So 320 by 200. So I have to adjust the menu to, if I go in here, Then I go to create profile. I don't know why it's 640 by 204. I don't know why that is. But I think I want, what, 320? Oops, going the wrong way. See, I think that's the button should be reversed, but. Oh, it changes pretty rapidly. Okay, 320 by, what did I say, 200? 200. Oops, wrong way. 200. And then I need to go to 15 something kilohertz. Oops, wrong direction. Which would be what? Is that way up there? How many zeros? So we're at 7 kilohertz right now? I think, so if we go back to the if you go back to the wiki, this will usually be the frequency of one of the crystals on the motherboard / video card, or half or quarter that value. So half or quarter of 15, and what was the exact number? Shoot. What? It's on this other page. I should have kept it. So I got to remember 61, and I got to remember, shoot. I'm just kind of, I hope this is valuable. I'm just trying to talk about the procedure to create a profile for a graphics card. This, 15.75. So what is 15.75 divided by 2? Oh, why did Singlabs get in there? What the heck? No, 15.75, not 5.75. Thank you. If I go to 7875, what does that do? Does that do anything for us? So we're at 9,000. I went the wrong way. Oops. So I want to go down to 7875. Maybe there's it's possible that there's a better way to do this, but so I think I want 7875 instead of 9. So we're gonna go way down to 78. Oh, I gotta go 75. My cat is meowing. Meow, 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 meow. Yep, my cat just does that. Oops. We're close. Okay. 7875. Is that correct? So then the other thing I noticed is that I had to also do the auto sampling to get rid of the flickering. So let's see if that does anything. It doesn't. Okay, so maybe that is the wrong clock? Well, obviously that's the wrong clock. But I don't know which way I need to adjust it. I think that 15.75 kilohertz is the horizontal refresh frequency. It needs the pixel clock frequency, which is a lot higher than that. So that's why I took a photo of the card. But which one? There was 4. I know you guys can't really see this, but there's 4 crystals on that chip, or on that card. 56.644, 36 megahertz, 50 megahertz, or 45 megahertz. So my EGA card is a 16 megahertz crystal. Where did you? I guess I don't understand which. I could try that number, 16.257. But I'm really in CGA mode. What does the clock crystal look like in this thing? Does the CGA card get the Does the CGA card get the frequency from the motherboard? Because it might. Does that go through the ISA bus? All right, well, let's try that random number. Well, actually, that'd be not. Hi, my cat's going for a ride. Whee. Well, so now I need to jam it way up to 16. Yeah, I need to add another number to this. So let's go way up. My cat is very confused. Yeah, CGA pins the frequency from the motherboard, or gets the, okay. Line length invalid for pixel width. So then, how do I determine line length? There's another number here now, line length, and it changes. Oh, sorry, I was. My cat is up on the table. The next number underneath clock frequency is line length. So I remember watching an Adrian's Digital Basement video, but I don't remember which video it was, where he talked about how to change this, how to do this. But I don't remember which way he went. So what it tells you to do in the manual, oh boy. So now we're in the wrong profile. Oh, Kate, please, cat, don't mess with it. Okay, are you stuck here now? There's no food over here. I'm sorry. Yoink. Okay, sorry. I was just getting my cat down. So now I can't even read this menu without going back out to another profile. So I need to figure out, I need to get to some other kind of text mode. Maybe this monochrome mode? Oh, look, even on this screen, it's not right. It's different. I have to figure out a way to test this. Display adapter test. Display character set. What does that do? Monochrome 9:14. No, I don't want this. Exit. See, that's weird how it's in this mode it's fine. It's not flickering. Let's try the 40:25 character display. Wow, would you look at that? It's fine. Let's see, what does all of the above do? Is that going to explode? Well, now it's doing some tests. Thought my cat had learned ventriloquism there for a second. Hey, Knox. So if you can't tell, I'm sort of you're sort of in a hard, you're in a bad spot. If you think this is going to be plug and play, I guess, with video cards. Okay. Display color attributes. Oh, I don't know if it's supposed to be flat, flickering like this. So this would be another different mode, 132:25. I don't, Oh, we can just do this, right? Oh, I didn't even think about this. Let's just set it to CGA. Oh, okay. I guess we're not in that program anymore. Meow. Yes, I hear you, kitty. Okay. Huh. Okay, so now we got new vertical bars. Actually, what? It looks weird on the capture, but it's not weird on my monitor. So probably just a an artifact of the RetroTink 4K. It thinks it might appear like scan lines, those like the dithering in the background or the small dots. You know, it would mess up like if you were gonna look at scan lines on a capture. So let's do test color. Are we? I don't understand. I guess maybe it can switch out of that CGA mode. Let's try that. D again. So this is still not doing anything. Let's get out of here. Let's just leave. Oops. So can we? I guess I can try a game. It's not gonna work because I'm not in that. I'm not in the CGA profile. Oh my gosh! What? Why is it working now? What profile am I in? I'm in my random. Now it looks fine. So maybe the problem is the video card, or it's just a sort of strange. Yeah, man. I wonder if it was. Okay, so if you made it this far, thank you. And hopefully you're not going insane with me. I wanted to demonstrate some gameplay with this thing. I have the RGB to HDMI set in the lowest possible resolution because it is going through the RetroTink 4K. So the HDMI output from the RGB to HDMI is going into the HDMI input of the RetroTink, and that's upscaling it to 4K. So I wanted the RetroTink to do the scaling and not this thing. However, there are many scaling options in the RGB to HDMI, different resolutions. Let's see, some common ones are like 800 by 600. So you can match these to whatever your monitor would be. So like if you've got, I don't know why you would have a 1024 by 768 HDMI monitor, but you could do that. But you could set it to 1920 by 1080 monitor if you had that. That would work. So like you can basically, you wouldn't need another scaler. You would just use the RGB to HDMI and you'd be satisfied. But if you wanted, I think if you want like the best experience, especially if you're like, I guess if you're streaming it like me, that's it's a very specific use case. But or if you're trying to capture really high quality video, well, I mean, I guess it kind of goes back to. We'll come back to Oregon Trail and the settings in a second, but it kind of comes back to whether or not you should emulate it. It's sort of different when you can like understand like, okay, an analog signal is going into this upscaler, and then the upscaler is doing some signal processing and upscaling to reach a higher resolution. So like 240p comes in, and then the RetroTink 4K outputs 4K, right? It's doing a lot of processing and upscaling in that circumstance. Whereas this, the RGBi, like I said, it's a digital signal. It's a digital, number. There's really no conversion from analog to digital. It just is a digital to digital signal, I suppose. So it's not emulation, but I don't know exactly. I mean, some people might argue that it is kind of like fake, but you know, obviously there is some. It's not. Maybe that's not the right word. Fake is not the right word. I don't believe it's fake. I'm trying to get to the point where, like, okay, what's the best way to upscale CGA and EGA? Right? That's kind of what the question I want to answer. Can it do native resolution? Well, so that's why I'm like, I tried that. I tried looking for native resolution, but the lowest it will output is 640 by 200 or whatever that whatever I had it set to. If I go back, there's no option to like do a direct capture or like direct output. I also tweaked some other settings, so like 640 by 400 is or 480 is the lowest, but that's the output resolution from the HDMI output. I also changed scaling to integer sharp, so that should be no like pixel manipulation or like smoothing or anything. No, EDIT is not anything. Yeah, I set it so that it was no. There's also this preferences menu, or maybe it's settings. That's settings of the actual thing itself, not the. Is it? It might be geometry. Or is it this? I don't know if there's a mode where it's just like a native resolution output mode, because that would be perfect for the RetroTink. Like that would be like what I would want to go into the RetroTink 4K, because that would let the RetroTink handle it as it like, yeah. So I don't know if that's a possibility. Let's see, manual mode. What does this do? No. Oh, I see. This is color space thing. DVI compatible. Just set it there. Is there an automatic? Auto. Okay, fine. Yeah, some of those are settings just for the thing itself. Anyway, so I set it to the lowest that resolution that I could easily find. Is there a 960 by 600? Oh, so that's how I discovered that there was a full 4K mode. But you have to use a Raspberry Pi 4. But then I was reading on the GitHub issues page, and it's like a, I don't know if it's like it's in a. Sorry, I'm talking too quickly. It's like an experimental thing. Like somebody was having a problem with it, so I'm not sure if it works. What did you mention? What did you say? 960 by 600, 960 by 540. No, that's as close as it gets. Is 960 by 540. Yeah. One of these modes might work, because I think, as far as I know, the horizontal resolution doesn't matter. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if the RetroTink is going to choke on it. I'm just looking at the what would it need to be? 200 something? It's like, maybe it's still not the right number. Anyways, I just put it to this 640 by 480. I don't know if there's a way to put it in like a direct output mode, but that would be ideal for the RetroTink. Yeah. I don't know what just happened. I think it restarted again. I didn't press the restart button though. Okay. So let's try to get at least to the point. Actually, you know what? Is there a different game? Let's see if I can get to a different game that has some color already. So I guess that setting set the ATI card to always output that CGA resolution, perhaps, For CGA is a multiple of 200. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really, well, I guess it doesn't not matter. I'm not sure. I don't know the best way to set it up so that it would be, what do I have to play? Oh, I don't have a, I don't have a controller connected. We could do, I guess Monkey Island would probably be fine. Let's see what happens. Oops. Oh, really? Oh. It probably only supports EGA. Oh my gosh. It's really weird because we're in that EGA profile still. So technically it's like in CGA mode. At least for Oregon Trail it was. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's not compatible CGA. So do I have to go back to that utility? Oops. But this happened before. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Oh wait, no, it's sorry, it's on the floppy. I should really try to figure out how to install this program. I have it installed on a different hard drive because it's a way that I can copy the files over. I don't know. I'm just ranting at this point. No, I want to set it back to EGA because this is how I solve the see the 16-bit mode. I want it to be CGA and then 8-bit. Sure. Let's go with that. So that programs the EEPROM on the card. And now if I restart. Oh, it's not going to work, is it? Is there a way to tell like what resolution the oops, no, I want it to be on C. Well, let's see, does Commander Keen work? Hey, I don't see an EGA or VGA card. Oh, let's see. Oh, it hates it. Well, okay. I guess I need to go back. Let's see if I can set it to EGA again, and let's see if I can load CKeen and see what, or Commander Keen 1. See what it does. I gotta go back to that stupid utility. That's funny. It's like yelling at me that I have a CGA card. I don't have enough CGA games, I guess. I got so caught up in trying to figure out how to set up a profile that I didn't get any games. I didn't think I was gonna actually get it to work in time, but I did. So I want this to be EGA color. Oh, so you can change the color mode also. Sure. Okay, now let's try to get out of here. Oops. Let's go to CKeen 1. So it's clear that either the, okay. So maybe this is a secondary EGA mode that it doesn't like. I don't know if it's possible to tell. How is this any different than the other mode we were just in? So it's clear I need to set up a second profile for EGA. .640 by 480. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Okay. So does that mean the pixel clock is probably the same? Let's create a second profile, but we need to make it, what did it say, 640 by 480? Why is it going down and not up? I don't understand. Oh. I don't know. Why does the clock frequency have anything to do with the pixel height? I can't change it. I don't know what resolution this game is in. Let me see if I can Google it. Commander Keen 1 resolution. What happens if you pick the default EGA profile on this? Okay, let's try that. Go up. Select profile. IBM PC. Oops. EGA. Okay, so there's flickering. So that's something. It detected a different, detected this 640 by 480 resolution, but the clock is off still. Unless I have to do this. Auto calibrate. Nope, I don't think this is gonna work. Okay, so that didn't do anything. Let's go back to create custom profile. See, it's choking on the pixel height here. Why is it stuck at no flickering for us? Now you can tell that the it's subtle. The text is wiggly, I guess is what I would say. Let me just reset it back to that. The EGA mode. Oh, it does say mode 1, so it's possible. Hold on a minute. Let me go back. Let me go here. IBM PC. Let me go to EGA. I noticed that there's sub profiles at the bottom here. Maybe I'm onto something right now. Model mode 1. Nope. Nope. Okay, mode 1 or nothing. So if you look at the text, the menu. Oh. Okay. Well, there's your flickering. That's on the default profile. The font in the background is flickering. Like wiggly. Seems like a cool project to tinker with, but for the price, yep, 110 for the board. Yeah, I spent about $100 and something on the hat, the TTL buffer, and a cable, and then a Raspberry Pi Zero. Yeah. Well, the problem is you can't connect this to that. You can't connect a CGA or an EGA card to the OSSC unless you. I don't think you can, because it's this. I talked about it in the beginning, but it's a TTL, like, so 5-volt output on this video. It's like a digital RGB signal, so you really can't connect it straight, or you're going to damage something. You can't connect it straight to the to an upscaler without first converting it to either analog VGA or in the case of this project, it converts it directly to HDMI. So just switched to my PC from my phone. Oh, you can see it now. Yeah, I don't want to leave this menu because it it does one of these flickers. Something is off. I think the clock is off. The other project you mentioned before, yeah, I'll show you. This project that Necroware is working on, it has, I don't necessarily know if it's like, well, it's a conversion in the sense that it takes the 5-volt RGBI signal, which if you think about, you know, I know a little bit about this. When I talked about it again in the beginning, when I think about anytime someone says TTL, I always replace TTL with 5 volts. Okay, so I think if you're familiar with like CMOS or CMOS, also that in my head I swap CMOS for 3 volts or 3.3 volts because that's the Raspberry Pi Pico I think is a CMOS voltage level. So I just kind of swap out the word TTL for 5 volts. So just think of it in that term. So TTL means 5 volts, which is incompatible with an analog signal. An analog signal is between like 0 and 1 volt. That's why like Bob from RetroRGB is always talking about you need to make sure that the signal that you're putting into an expensive device, an upscaler, is compatible and it's in the right voltage range. Because if you put TTL signal voltage into that, it looks like if you just try to manually make a cable, you're gonna blow something up. So if we think about 5 volts, and then we think about, we've got to go back to the CGA page to talk about that little truth table. This is like the total possibilities that CGA can produce, but it's really in the sense of the RGB values are either 0 or 1 in the sense of they're on or off. So if you wanted just a raw red color, it would just be a 1 for red. That's what this RGBI or this like digital RGB is. So the RGB to HDMI kind of does it all in the CPLD, right? It does this like conversion. It must have some kind of like lookup table that says, okay, if on this RGBI interface I have, I'm just going to pick one of these from this thing, right? So let's say I wanted to do just red, right? So okay, on my RGBI signal I see 1 for red and then a 0, 0, 0. That indicates to me I should show a red screen, but that's not really like 1 would be, it's at 5 volts, but it needs to really be at like 1 volt or whatever the analog red signal expects. So it's either the CPLD or the Raspberry Pi converts that to that value and then outputs it. Whereas the Necroware thing, this uses a microcontroller and these like resistor arrays with specific values that take the raw 5 volt either 0 or 1 signal and output a lower voltage. But like it uses like the raw digital signal originally, so it's not really, it's converting it, but it's using actual like discrete resistors and the microcontroller logic, because it also has to do that weird conversion. I talked about CGA. It doesn't have a dark yellow; it's brown. So the Necroware thing actually it can detect if it's supposed to be showing brown, and it will output a brown color instead of yellow. Or it actually has a special mode, like you have to, you can set it right. So I hope that makes sense. It's not, it would be, so like on one end you'd have your CGA card or CGA or EGA graphics card. You plug your CGA cable into the one end of this, so the video in on this left side, and then it would convert it. It would output VGA on the other side. Then you would take that and you would go into your OSSC or the RetroTink. That would be like the safe analog voltage. going out. I do recommend, like I said, I'm going to put this link. I'll put this link in the description. It's not there right now, but I'll put the link. This video is actually Necroware talking. It was from a couple days ago. They're talking about the latest iteration of this this adapter. So really, this adapter probably is what I wanted in the first place, because it's kind of a simpler kind of conversion between the RGBI, the digital RGB, to I guess something that more people can wrap their head around, like the VGA signal. But the problem is it's an analog to digital conversion. Like, so then when you put this VGA, although I guess it's kind of splitting hairs, because I also can put the VGA output from the same graphics card. So I'm using this HDMI card that has both a 9-pin CGA or EGA output and VGA output. So I can just output VGA and have it pretend to be EGA also. Or in the case of like DOS games, it's really, from this generation, it's really up to what version of the game that you run. So for example, you can look up King's Quest. I'm just putting this out there. King's Quest is probably on Good Old Games. So if you want to support the developers and buy the game, whatever, you probably should buy it on Good Old Games. But if you go on archive.org and you look up King's Quest, there's a bunch of different versions of it. There's King's Quest. There's a VGA version. I found the CGA version, which is a version that will run with that lower number of colors in the CGA color space, whatever. So just by nature of running that other King's Quest version, that other app, it will run it in a different mode. Not all games run that way, but like games of this era usually do. You have to find the right version of the game for your graphics card. And sometimes they had more than one version. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is I was a little bit concerned. Like, I thought that this RGB to HDMI adapter would be really good, because it wouldn't be I guess it technically is like a digital to analog back to digital conversion. That's what the upscaler is, taking in the analog signal and outputting a digital signal, or upscaling, or converting it to digital and then upscaling it and then outputting it again. Whereas the RGB to HDMI is kind of like a digital to digital. It's just taking the raw digital RGBI and going right to the HDMI output, I suppose. So it's not doing that conversion. But like I said, the graphics card can output VGA, which is analog. So, and it looks fine. So I don't know. Maybe I'll consider this if it, at the very least, if it alleviates me having to make a profile, and it's probably a lot cheaper to build. I don't think Necroware sells these, but the project is open source, so you can build your own. So now that I have this RGB to HDMI, maybe I should compare it to this and see, the quality of the output through the RetroTink. I hope that makes sense. I hope this wasn't super, I don't know, not cringe, but because somebody on YouTube is going to find it cringe. But I hope I explained my thoughts okay. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, going into this stream, I was like stressed out, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to show anything. I didn't know what really I was going to talk about. If I couldn't get games to work, what do I talk about? But then I noticed there's that the Wikipedia article, where is it? Not the Wikipedia, the Wiki article about how to set this up. But if you don't have all the how to set up a profile, but if you don't have all the information and you don't want to just guess forever, like I watched Adrian, I'll have to find it. I really want to know what video I watched. But Adrian's Digital Basement had a video about how to make a custom profile like this. He had some program that would display just, it's a lot more apparent when if you just see text. Like, so if you see a bunch of text, you can see the vertical wiggling lines very apparently, and you can know if you really do want to guess the clock, if you make an adjustment, it will show you those. I kind of showed it a little bit. Those vertical bars get further apart when you get close. When you adjust the clock and you get close to the correct clock, those lines get bigger and bigger and bigger until they go away, eventually there'll be just one in the middle, and then you get close enough. So yeah, Roman. So yeah, I gotta be honest. I'm a little not annoyed. Like, I'm never annoyed at the project creator, because obviously they didn't make the project for me. They made it for themselves. At least it is the case with this project. I think they made it for some specific computer that they were trying to display. And since then, there are a lot of those built-in profiles that other people have created. But if you get off the rails of, like, if you don't want to use, and I will retest, or I'm going to test with this authentic CGA card, and I guess now I probably want to buy a real, if I can find one. They might be too rare. Either get an EGA, an actual EGA video card. I want an IBM one, ideally, because that would be like a good, base scenario. But there's a bunch of clone companies that make EGA compatible graphics cards, and test it again, because this ATI card is kind of like a weird scenario, because it's a VGA card, but it supports both EGA and CGA, but it can automatically switch what mode it's in, just based on what you're trying to display. So that might be adding to the frustration of having to create a profile for every mode, because it switches it handles itself fine, but the RGB to HDMI doesn't have the logic to detect, okay, hey, we're in a different mode now, switch to a different profile. And that's what I was kind of talking about in the beginning. If you're familiar with the RetroTinks, how they automatically can detect when you switch a mode, even the older ones that maybe if you switch a resolution, it will black out for a second and then come back. The fact that it comes back and it doesn't just look like Garbo, it just has the fuzzy text. The fact that it can automatically do that and switch to a different attempt to switch to another profile is amazing. An amazing feature that we all take for granted on the retro gaming side. Did your PS2 work? It did, yeah. So I guess that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about for the computer thing. I'm going to keep doing more information, more research. I was going to do a different topic tonight, and I'll circle back to the retro gem. I was going to do something else. I was going to do probably either the Neo Geo CD, because that might be kind of straightforward and easy. I have the SD loader mod for that, so that was something I wanted to do. But then this came in the mail today, and I was really excited because I wanted to check out this, how easy it would be to, if this is a good option for people that are into vintage computer stuff. And then I ran immediately into the wavy line issue, and I'm like, then I kind of I spent a couple hours after work kind of figuring out, okay, can I figure this out before I go live? And I couldn't. So then I'm like, okay, now I got to talk about, okay, you have to make custom profiles if you want to use this device. So that's kind of my thoughts on this. It's good if you really want. It looks, when you nail the profile, it looks great. It looks super sharp. Even at that 640 by 480 and then upscaled by the RetroTink 4K, I thought it looked really good. So that's kind of my last thoughts on that. A little disappointing that it doesn't have a little bit more intelligence to try to detect, what resolution you're in automatically somehow, and then what clock frequency you're at. But yeah. So last time, just if anybody is interested in what Alteracious asked about whether the PS2 worked. So last stream, I have this the PS2 Retro Gem mod, which is a HDMI mod, an internal HDMI mod for the PlayStation 2. And when I originally got that working, the video part was working fine. So it was outputting video and audio, but the controller would not work, or periodically would not work. So I took it back apart last stream. Now that I have my microscope here, which is kind of in the way all the time now. But now that I have a microscope, I wanted to see if there are any bridges or any issues with my original install that I had done without the microscope. And I found a bridge on not even the pin that I was supposed to solder for the flex cable, because there's a flex cable thing that you have to solder to a controller flex cable connector on the back to get the OSD to work. And there was a bridge on one of those pins, and I'd never in 1,000 years would have known that there was a bridge there. Well, I have these really sharp multimeter probes now also, which helped me detect that there was a bridge on those two pins. So maybe I could have figured it out if I had that, but I was able to see it immediately with the scope and clear it, and then everything was fine. So I went back and I went through all my solder joints on the whole install and I redid them, and it's a very eye-opening thing. And then now it's working fine. So I talked about it during that stream. When I was originally doing RetroGem, Dan Kuntz had sent me a kit for this PS2 Slim. So I originally had wanted to install it in this PS2 Slim, and that was the first time I failed the gem install back before I had a microscope. So the kind of cool thing about the RetroGem is if you mess up the RetroGem install, the flex cables, and I ripped the pads on the flex cable, so and I wasn't willing to repair it. But if you ruin the flex cable of the RetroGem, you can always just buy replacement flex cables, which is only $15 in the case of the PS2 Slim, and you can use the same gem main board, which is cool. And that's actually the idea behind the RetroGem, is it is all the same board. All you have to do is get the different flex cable, and then you can use that RetroGem on a different console, which is kind of annoying, but like, let's say you give up or you want to switch to a different console or something and you don't want to spend the money and whatever. Or in my case, I have a couple gems now, or at least two. So I have a gem. I had a gem board from that install, and then Dan sent me a second kit for the FAT, but he sent me a whole new gem board also, so I have two of them now. So I still have a gem, but no flex cables. So I bought replacement flex cables on the website for the Slim, and I want to retry it now that I have the production flex cables and finish that install. So I'll be doing a PS2 gem, the PS2 Slim install, because I also have from Gus, whatever, Gusse, I have the internal Blue Retro mod. I don't remember there's a weird name for it, but it's an internal HDMI mod, or internal Blue Retro mod, which if you don't know what that is, Blue Retro is a Bluetooth controller adapter thing that lets you use Bluetooth controllers with a bunch of different retro consoles, and in this case, it's actually internal. Well, yeah, OG, I don't get that much stuff, and actually, that is the first time that I have ever gotten stuff. And I understand where you're coming from. I've kind of given up on making YouTube videos in general. I didn't get my RetroTink 4K for free. I paid full price for that. So, yeah, I know, I understand where you're coming from, but it is. I don't know if this makes it any better or worse. I don't necessarily have a lot of time to just like sit now and play my PS2. It's really kind of more educational, or at least at the time, it was. Anytime I do an install or something, or when I live stream it, that's like, I guess, rule number one, or at least ever since I started doing my YouTube channel stuff, is I didn't want to do any mod installs unless it was recorded and filmed. So I know like I'm not an expert. I don't professionally install mods for people, but I thought it would be a waste if it would be wasteful for me to waste, I guess, installing an expensive thing and not also try to get some other value out of it, like, and I don't mean like monetarily, but I mean like the knowledge that I gain, however small, however whatever, however Joe Schmo I am, like like I said, I'm not a professional mod installer. I wanted to capture that and put it on the internet. And so that's kind of what I, you know, way back when I started my YouTube channel, I literally would try to buy every single mod. If you are familiar with me, you know I did my retro modding news videos where every week I would find out what mods are coming soon, you know, retweet stuff on Twitter, like if a mod is getting released and I knew the date, you know, I would try to make sure that other people are aware, so if they wanted to buy one, they could. And, you know, I'm pretty much always on the computer. I work I'm a software developer. I'm on a computer all the time, so I'm around when these mods release. And so every time there would be a pretty major mod that would release, I bought it with my own money, and then I would make a video about it. And like I said, I kind of felt bad, like, okay, I have this thing now, I need to make a video about it. And then, you know, so for a couple of years, that's what I did. I tried to buy every single mod that came out. And then, you know, I thought to myself, oh, do I buy multiple versions of it? Like, so like the DC Digital, I bought the first version of the DC Digital, but then there was another version that was different. So like, do I buy another copy of the same mod? So like 99% of the mods, actually all of them except for the gem. The gem is the first time someone had sent me, actually that's not true. Ryan from Castlemania Games sent me a Project Stellar. Make Megahertz himself didn't even send me a Project Stellar. He did send me a free flex cable once when I melted one. So he sent me a flex cable, but he didn't send me a mod. It wasn't until Ryan from Castlemania Games, who I met in person one time, he sent me a Stellar. So I had two Stellars, and that's why I did two installs. Or did I? I don't know if I did. But anyway, so that was the first time I had gotten a mod sent to me. And then the second time was Dan. So that was, you know, I feel fortunate. I appreciate the community. I appreciate, but it's coming from a point of like, I literally cannot afford to buy every mod to make a video about it, or at least a stream about it now, because I don't make videos anymore. So I hope that doesn't not that I feel the need to defend myself, but yeah, it was getting too expensive for me personally, and my YouTube channel made zero money. I literally, if you add up all the money that I ever made from my YouTube channel, I probably wouldn't have paid off. I probably haven't yet paid off all the gear, the filming gear. So my camera, wherever my camera was, I probably hadn't paid off. I haven't yet made the money to pay off my camera. Well, actually, if you count the PCBWay stuff, maybe, because PCBWay is all right. But again, I also spend that money. I put it, you know, I spend it on projects and things. They only give me the board itself, but like if I build a project from PCBWay, I have to buy the bill of material stuff myself, and then I you know, so it's not, yeah. I hope that makes sense. It was just getting too expensive for me to continue, and yeah. So I view it sort of as a, you know, I want to help other people. And these streams are kind of not ideal. They're not as good as YouTube videos, I think, for this sort of thing. But if I'm going to do it anyways, then I feel I might as well do it. And that's why it's all related. So, all right, I know that was a big rant. And I'm sorry if you came here and you wanted to see more about the RGBtoHDMI or some success with that. We weren't super successful, but I'll figure it out, and hopefully I'll have a better understanding of it, and then maybe I'll make another video in the future, or another stream in the future about how to do the profiles and the correct way to do all that stuff. So, all right, so next stream, Sunday, I will probably do, I do have to get back to my, the PC Engine. I did a weird install where the documentation wasn't finished yet, so I wasn't really sure how to finish that. Maybe I'll reach out to Zaxor, see if he can help me out where some of the wires need to go. But I am interested in doing the Neo Geo CD mod. I do have the Loopy 3DS to do. I have the whole box of stuff I got from Bonzo, but that's some of that stuff I have to buy extra parts for. But so we'll have to, maybe I'll make a stream of just going back to that box, and yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll be back on Sunday with